can't lose. No, we can't lose.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Gambling gods, fickle bunch.
Oh, yeah.
So easily
We
affected.
have a shooter and a good one coming out for a new point. Get your bets down, ladies and gentlemen. He's a rolling point is 9, place 9. 9 a winner. Got a hot hand. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen.
They bet on absolutely anything. Don't make them prove it.
What would be the next step for me to take?
Follow Degen Boost on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, that's a good plug. I like it.
Turn on alerts.
You're tuned in to Gambling with Good JuJu.
Welcome in, everybody, to Gambling with Good JuJu. Hey, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, follow, hit us up on the socials at Good JuJu Bets. You can also get all our content, including episodes of the show, merch, and our gambling viewing guide now up on the website at goodjujubets.net. Guys, I love that viewing guide. I actually used some of your guys' stuff over the last week, and let me tell you, I crushed this weekend.
That's awesome.
So did I.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed it. Shout out to the shows that I was following last week on the schedule, and it was, honest to goodness, the best weekend I've had in 2 months.
That's great to hear.
Awesome.
So thank you to each of you for the work that you guys put into that, because part of that wasn't just for the audience. I wanted to know what you guys were doing so that I could do it. So thank you. Hopefully, if you're out there in the audience, if you're utilizing it, let us know. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear about it. So I am going to say, I'm not going to say that it was entirely driven by plays off of shows I got in the viewing guide, but it did help. What's also helped has been my commitment to the promo game since I got back from Vegas. I can now say my bankroll is back to under 1% units, which, based on what happened in Vegas, it was quite nerve-wracking there for a while. So you guys are going to hear coming up on the show today, we're going to introduce the audience into how we use promos to manage our bankrolls, because that's really the method with which we found the most profit. And then we're actually going to speak to a real expert in the space. The Degen Boost is going to join us. He posts a daily thread on Twitter called the Megaga thread. And I'm just now remembering, I forgot to ask him why there's 2 G's. Why is there 2 G's?
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll check with him. We got follow-ups to get to, so no problem there. All right, but before we get into that, we got other stuff to cover. Guys, the squad ride banged. We're over 500.
Yes, sir.
Easy peasy, 3 and 2.
We've got separation now on the pick-to-click board. RJ, you going to take a little moment to brag about that when we get to it?
3 and 0.
Victory lap?
Not quite yet, but we do have to talk logistics.
But before we get into all that, we're going to start by talking about Survivor.
Oh, great.
Don't even look at the sheet, boys, because we're going off script for this one.
Okay.
Okay.
We lost.
We lost.
Why'd we lose? Tell them who we took.
Trevor Lawrence.
We took Trevor Lawrence, the savior.
The savior.
No, I'm not mad we lost.
Good.
Me neither.
That doesn't mean I'm not mad.
You look like you're crying.
The moment I was the most mad was not at any point during the game. It was when I looked at the circuit counts and I saw the Jaguars were picked in 40% of pools and the Seahawks were picked in 7% of fields.
Yeah, that's infuriating, I imagine, for the guy that want to take the Seahawks.
I'm not furious because I want to take the Seahawks. I'm furious. I'm not furious. Let's correct the math here. I'm slightly irritated that when I asked, what do we think the estimates will be this weekend? RJ gave me ESPN eliminator numbers. You know what we call that in the world of marketing research?
What's that?
Bad data. Now, I knew it was bad data.
Yeah. I think
Because
you
the
called that out immediately.
ESPN eliminator was saying that 40% of the plays were going to be Niners and Cowboys. And I knew that wasn't true. Not for Circa.
Yeah.
So when I tried to bring that up, you guys didn't want to talk about it, really. Now, why do you think you didn't really want to talk about it, RJ?
Now or then?
Then.
Why didn't I want to talk about it then?
What do you think could have been a motivating factor for you guys to just be like, now let's just go with what we got?
Because I already bet on the Panthers.
Because you already submitted our pick before we
I did that.
discussed it.
Yeah, I did that too. And we kind of discussed it.
When?
On Tuesday.
Buddy, we were just pulling up the stuff to see what they even were at that point.
Yeah. Okay.
I did put in the text thread. I voted for Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Not saying I couldn't have been swayed other ways. But
Sure.
I got another thought here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure either of you guys actually know what the game is. What do you guys think the game is in Survivor? Is it trying to get 18 straight weeks or whatever of correct picks?
No, it's definitely not that.
It is not. That is not the game.
That is not the game.
You know what the game is?
Survive.
No, that's incorrect, Kurt. The game is figuring out what the count's gonna be. And then once you have your estimate on the count, you figure out what weeks are we gonna zig and what weeks are we gonna zag.
Fair enough.
Now here's my problem with this. So week 1, there was this spreadsheet. And RJ shared the spreadsheet with us. And said, I got the teams picked in bold here. And this would be the path you go through. So first week, Washington. Okay, great. Everyone's on Washington. We have no idea what we're doing. Let's go Washington. It was terrifying.
We should have just lost that week.
So we go into week 2 and we sit down and I'm in full agreement with RJ. We want to take a good team. So we took the Bills, a good team. Mm-hmm. We had a logic behind it. What was our strategy week 3?
Take the prince of the NFL.
So here was my problem. I wanted to argue for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And Kurt said, no, look at week 7.
Week 7.
And all I could hear in that comment was, no, we have to take the most obvious pick this week because if we don't, we won't be able to take the most obvious pick in week 7. That's not the game to try to guess what the most obvious pick is and then just take it every single week. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we never got in the game, boys. We didn't even play the game.
Yeah.
We just did the very first step. The very first step is figuring out what's the most popular play going to be. You guys were great at that. And then you guys were really good at using that logic as the reason why we have to take the most obvious pick.
Yeah. So.
Here's my takeaway.
Okay.
I'm still talking. Last but not least,
Yeah.
Kurt says, when this is all over on Sunday, he looks at me and he goes, that's okay. We're going to be doing this for the next 35 years.
I did say that.
To which my response is, I'm not doing this again unless we agree on how to play the game.
Love it.
Do you agree? What's the game? What is the game? If it's not figuring out what the count is and then figuring out what your strategy relative to the count is, what is it?
Well, I.
Put him on the spot.
Well said. I thought we were going to try to get Ellie through week 6 or 7 before we made our move. That's how it was going to work in my head. Maybe we should have talked about that.
You wanted to take the most popular pick every week for the first 7 weeks?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, yeah.
I don't want to do that next year.
Yeah, understood. Yeah. So next year, we go contrarian week 1? Is that what you want to do?
No.
Okay.
I want to sit down with the two of you. I want to talk about the factors we're going to include when we make our decisions. And each week, I want to look at the factors and try to figure out what the intelligent decision is. Week 2, taking the Bills. I was very happy to be in the 40%. Week 3, when I saw the numbers on the Jags, I was mad.
Fair enough.
That's all. Yeah. That's all I had on it. So it was a fun experience. I'm not obviously actually mad at anyone.
Right, of course. Yeah, you got a cool hat out of it.
I take full ownership and responsibility. The Jags were my pick.
Right.
I rode with you guys. I stand by that.
R.I.P.
I just think we didn't actually play the game.
Yeah.
And that if we're going to do it again in the future years, we have to focus each week on obtaining the relevant information. And I don't think we were discussing the relevant information. I only think we were discussing the information that contributes to why a team is the most popular pick.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would agree with that, and I would also add maybe it would be a good idea to omit future weeks, like looking in advance, because I think
Consider them less.
Consider them less. Because
Weight them less. You want to look at them every week. You have to look at it every week.
Yeah.
But for example, the Seahawks are not a top 5 team, correct?
Correct.
So to say we have to save an average team to specifically use them another week when they're the most popular team, before you saw any of those games kick off on Sunday, if you had seen the percentages when it comes to the Jaguars, did you want to be on them at 40%?
No.
Yeah, I mean, no.
Like,
If you told me the Jaguars were 40% and the Seahawks were 7%, and what were the Dolphins?
I don't know.
doesn't matter.
I would have taken
While
those two teams.
one team was 40%.
Yeah.
That's all that really matters in that takeaway.
Yeah.
I was surprised they were 40%. That felt a little, I mean, I guess maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. I thought it was going to come in at about 25%.
It would have been awesome if we weren't surprised.
I mean, it would have been awesome if the Jaguars would have beat the snot out of them like they should have.
Now you're getting into the thing that's not the
Resulting.
game.
Yeah.
That's not the
Yeah.
game. Who's going to win?
It was the biggest losing week in Survivor history for Circa. So
That's
we're,
incredible.
we're in good company.
You guys, all I can think is missed opportunity. Moving on. Okay. What we did hit was the squad ride. All right.
We got that right.
We may have just lost $1,000, but we hit that 1 unit banger on Louisville minus 14. Thank you so much, Dave Koken. We really appreciate it. And hey, by the way, that college football Saturday really paid off. Did you guys have fun that day? We had FSU Clemson OT, Ohio State
man.
win on a game-winning drive, tons of matchups all day going along across the board. I got helped out by the fact that I did very well. Shout out, keep betting, Brad Powers, Dave Koken, Joey Tunes, Blakely Locks, and others. How do you feel?
Bing, 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 bing.
I hit a 10-leg parlay, so of course I feel good. That's a true story, audience. That's the one thing that
Who the
saved.
hell does 10-leg parlays in real life? You hit a 10-leg parlay?
Yeah, it was a stepped up. It was a stepped up parlay.
Same game parlay.
No, stepped up parlay. I picked 10 teams to
don't
win
even-
on Saturday,
oh
and
my
they all won.
I hit a six-team parlay that I played for a full unit on a cash wager, all money lines, and it hit.
See,
It was Texas, Penn State. I'm not going to do all the teams. It's ridiculous. I won't get there.
Yeah.
But it was just
Wow.
for fun. Blakey Locks put it out
Blakey
along with the
Locks.
rest of his card. And he's new to me this year as someone as I've been following. But shout out that guy.
Hell yeah.
He puts out a nice card. He talks through things. It seems like a really intelligent guy. And I do recommend checking him out.
Well, God bless you guys. I hit a 4-leg parlay. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Good job.
congratulations.
Yeah, wow, yeah, that's great.
Did you make money on Saturday?
No.
I wish you had just lied there.
I recall the text thread where I did not make money. Yes. I had Ohio State covered, maybe.
All right. That brings us to this week's squad ride. This week's squad ride, we're going with Illinois Moneyline, brought to you by the degenerate folks at Good JuJu Bets. That's Good JuJu Bets, GOODJUJUBETS. Give them a follow on Twitter if you're not already. That's right, we're going to the Illinois-Purdue game. We'll be playing Illinois Moneyline at whatever number we get when we cross state lines into Indiana. But you can get them right now for between plus 100 and minus 10, depending on your book.
Sharp.
Love it.
That's the sharpest bet we've ever talked about on this.
I will tell you guys one thing. No one out there should tail us because they think we're sharp bettors. You should absolutely tail us because we have the combined power of Good JuJu going with us to that game in that stadium. If you aren't familiar with Andy from Omaha, let him be your shining example for what happens with the power of Good JuJu.
Royal flush.
Royal flush. And we're going to get ourselves an Illinois W, aren't we?
You know what? I might bet on it before we even go. Just go down and get the ticket.
Oh, really? At the Paradise?
I think I'm gonna do
Except
that.
for you're going to show up there and you're going to be like, yeah, I want to do this. And they're going to be like, yeah, we don't know how to do that.
That's possible.
I think I'm making it a 2-unit
2
banger
unit
special of the week.
I'm going to go full 4 units.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'm going to go 10.
Do I hear 15, 15, 15? I got 15 in the back. Do I hear 16? No. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, kids, you're not going to college unless Illinois wins.
So are we going to have fun this weekend? We're meeting up with the ODL Fantasy League for our annual Illinois-Purdue rivalry game. We're going to have several tailgate spots grouped together, full setup going for the game. By the way, if anyone out there wants to stop by and give a good juju to us, swing by the driving range lot where we will be partying all day.
Never been at this campus, or really any. But I'm excited to see it.
I haven't been to Purdue's campus,
Yeah.
I don't think either. I've been to Notre Dame's. I've been to Indiana's. I've been to Indiana State's.
Interesting,
I don't
yeah.
think I've been to Purdue's.
Now I'm excited to see what the culture is like around football in Purdue. Are they any good?
I don't
No,
know.
they're terrible.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
This game is going to be as good as Bears Broncos.
Right. Purdue is terrible, and Illinois is a pick'em.
This is it's a 2-point spread. I mean, it's Illinois minus 110 to 100. It should be. It might be a bad quality game, but it should be a good game.
Sure. Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah.
I mean, it's all relative. We could go to an FCS game, and this would look like NFL if we did that. So
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
as long as it's a good game, as long as it's a close game, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I just hope we get that QB 54 out in the lot.
Oh, we do need to get QB 50 at 4 going. We need to take some video of it. We'll go ahead and tag you guys. QB 54. Don't worry about it. Repost it. It's okay.
No, yeah. Future sponsors of the show.
I'm sorry. Am I on one right now?
This is great.
Am I going crazy? Is this just me talking this whole time?
Oh, well.
What the hell is QB 54?
Well, that's the little game where you throw the football in the
We
chair.
got it out last time. You've seen it. We had it set up in the yard yesterday.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
Sunday.
throwing bombs in.
Yeah, right. We're throwing bombs. So we're going to do that in the
QB
tailgate.
54.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We've already decided that 1 month for our budget, we need to try to drop shots into the bucket on QB 54 for budget.
I like it.
Yeah, I remember playing that 6-year-old last year at the Illinois game.
Oh, yeah.
Freezing my freaking...
Right. That was the problem about last year. It was 2 degrees.
Yeah, it was... Oh, my God.
We're
that
going to
was
have
This
so
year's gonna
much
be
fun.
75.
80 degrees and sunny.
beautiful.
We're going to
Yeah.
have a great time.
We are
Okay.
gonna- yeah, okay.
All right, we need to discuss this upcoming NFL game of the week. That's right, folks. How about this huge matchup we have coming up? RJ, Kurt, did you know there's a game in the early window featuring 2 teams coming off a performance last week that saw 141 points scored combined in their games? That sounds like a fun game to watch, doesn't it? A lot of action, a
Yeah.
lot of really offensive-oriented teams.
Sure, deep balls.
Yes, and you're going to get it,
Big
buddy.
runs.
It's Bears Broncos week. That's right. So the reason that this is so funny is that's true. They took part in 2 games that saw a combined 141 points scored last weekend. I bet the under.
As did I.
You bet the under
Of
too?
course, I rode with you on the under.
I'm sorry, but there is no one that is going to make this Broncos D look more impressively mediocre than Justin Fields right now. This Bears offense couldn't score against Illinois' defense. How the heck are they going to score against anyone who's been a professional athlete before?
The same can be said for Russell Wilson, right?
Right. First of all, you said it's true. The funniest part of this game is the Bears are playing at home against a team that gave up 70 points last week, and they're 3.5-point dogs. How is that possible?
That's embarrassing.
That is
incredible.
so embarrassing. I just don't see any way you could put a bunch of dogs up on a line, and the Bears wouldn't find a way to score 28 points against them.
Yeah. Worse off football fan right now. Bears or Broncos? Like before this game, right?
Bears.
Bears? You think so?
They at least have the cover of, well, Sean Payton's 3 games in.
Yeah.
Give him a little bit of time. We don't have that cover. We have 3rd-year Justin Fields that we've invested. We're hosed. I mean, we're not hosed because we have the draft picks.
Right.
But we're hosed. This iteration's not going to work. It's over. Isn't it amazing that we were on this very podcast less than a month ago talking about it's finally
train.
here. We're so excited. I didn't envision a scenario where 3 weeks in I would be looking at it going, it's over.
I can't believe that happened.
And
like-
it is. It's over.
Like taking my generally optimistic view out of the picture. I still feel genuinely surprised at how poorly this has gone. But my question, I think, was more around the lines of you're in year 2 of giving Russell Wilson $100 million or whatever. That's kind of debilitating.
Right. If we had a Broncos fan on the broadcast right now, they would look at us. They would say, you're crazy.
Yeah.
The Broncos are clearly worse. But I don't believe them, and I don't believe you. What do you think? You're a Niners fan. Who's in a worse place right now, Bears or Broncos, Kurt?
Broncos.
Yeah, you think so?
Is it just because of our draft picks that we have?
Yeah.
I mean, 24-month window. I think it looks better for the Bears.
I think it looks better for the Bears all across the board. I mean, they've got the draft coming up. The Broncos are tied to Russell Wilson for a long time. That's going to kill them. They also overpaid Mike McGlinchey, who's a former 49ers offensive lineman.
Yeah.
They gave him like $25 million a year. That was a terrible, terrible contract. I think the Bears will be fine. They just got to.
The Bears will be fine.
They'll be fine.
Truer words have never been spoken. They haven't been fine in 12 years, pal.
They were just in the playoffs like 4 years ago.
I never.
Right?
Dude, they just lost their opening round playoff game 5 years ago. They're fine.
I have never appreciated Jay Cutler more than I do now after 3 games in this season.
True, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
You dropped the Jay Cutler, and now I immediately have to get us back on topic. So this brought up a thought that I haven't been able to get off my mind since Sunday. The Bears are horrible, and they are pretty much already guaranteed a top 5 pick. The Panthers also look not good. They are a combined 0-6 between those two teams to start the season. Here's why this is important. The Bears have their own pick, of course, and they have the Panthers pick. So they could end up with 2 of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft.
That's spicy.
Let me drop a couple other assumptions of mine. 1, in our lifetimes, we have never had a good quarterback. Ever. You just said you wished for Jay Cutler. I don't think it's an opinion. We've never had a good quarterback. I'm now confident that no matter how bad the coaches might be, Justin Fields is not special.
Mm-hmm.
Special overcomes challenging circumstances. Special's bigger than themselves. Fields doesn't seem to have that.
Backup city for him.
Yeah, I agree.
I also know next year's QB class is deep. Let me give you the following names. Caleb Williams, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Shedeur Sanders, Riley Leonard. All of these names, when I look at different mock drafts, will pop up at different points in the first round. Quinn Ewers, didn't even mention him. Why? If the Bears have 2 top 5 picks, wouldn't they consider taking 2 quarterbacks? Put them in camp, run them against each other, and then trade the quarterback who loses the battle before he ever gets on the field.
That's the craziest
That's interesting.
thing I've ever heard in my life.
Why would you trade the pick?
I wouldn't trade the pick. I would take an offensive lineman. I'd take the best offensive lineman, probably a tackle, and then I'd take a quarterback.
Yeah.
Or I'd take the best defensive lineman, or I wouldn't go linebacker. You can't go linebacker. You have to either go offensive lineman, edge rusher, or quarterback.
Yeah.
And 2 out of those 3, you got to get 2 of those.
So what's the value of a quarterback to a team relative to one of those players? How much more important is one quarterback that wins for your franchise relative to one defensive edge?
I don't really understand the mathematics behind linemen and drafting them early.
Why?
Right?
It feels to me the value of a quarterback is in multiple X's times more valuable than any position player who's not a quarterback. So at the end of the day, what I'm suggesting is you're getting more value by taking 2 quarterbacks and locking in a certainty between the 2 of them in a camp battle, and then trading off what would probably be now for less value, that quarterback asset, to then still get a return that can net you a defensive player or another position player. What the question is you're trading that pick every year like the Bears did last year because of exclusively the QB position. So what's the harm in holding on to those 2 assets until after you've gotten way more information than everyone else on which one's better?
Yeah.
Here is how I'm going to completely change your mind on this thought.
Okay. Interesting.
You are telling me that a franchise who has never, ever developed a starting quarterback is going to blow 2 first-round picks, potentially in the top 5, on 2 quarterbacks and figure out which one is better in 7 weeks?
I am telling you.
You really
that
think
if
they can do that?
If they just take one, it will be a bad quarterback.
You don't know that.
Yes.
Oh, track record is what you just said.
You just said we've never had a good quarterback. What makes you think I trust thinking inside the box in the scenario is the way to go for the Bears?
Like, okay, let's play this out real quick. Let's say the Bears take Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, right? Mm-hmm. They got 7 weeks to figure out which one to keep.
Exactly. They're not going to be able to do it.
That seems...
I think that's wildly inaccurate. I think that the discovery of these guys are good or not happens pretty quick in training camp as soon as they get in front of a whole bunch of professionals. The difference is, and the reason you're always having to project what these players do is because you've never seen them in the setting surrounded by all the talent that makes up the NFL.
Yeah.
You've got guys coming from North Dakota State in one scenario. You've got Zach Wilson coming from BYU in another one. And then you're trying to compare them against Tua, who just came out of Alabama and played at that schedule that he played. It's really hard to understand what are they going to look like once they get into an NFL system. And you're telling me that I can't go put them into a system for 7 weeks, see how they look compared to each other, and still find value in the trade market for that second option?
Yeah.
I mean, what do the Bears do when they both perform equally?
Well, all right. Let's...
I mean,
Then pick one and trade the other.
Trade the other one.
How is that any different than the other scenario? If they just pick one and they don't try testing out both of them, what's the harm here?
It is an interesting wrinkle on the old quarterback battle at camp or whatever they call it, right?
It's extremely common for colleges to recruit 2 quarterbacks at the same time and let them play it out in camp.
Absolutely unprecedented. And I'm going to suspend belief that the Bears could pull off the evaluation in 7 weeks or even select 2 of the top best 5. I'm going to throw that out of the equation. Absolutely unprecedented. And I love this as an idea. Now, the interesting part about this to me is the fact that you can't actually trade players in the NFL, right? That's not really a plausible thing.
Now you're getting into deep territory that's going to require explanation. Tell us what you mean.
Well, it's if you trade somebody in the NFL, you get a bag of balls and a draft pick, like a 7th rounder. That's all you ever get. It's just the culture is that they don't actually trade players, right? They keep them and then they cut them, and then if they have to trade Khalil Mack or whatever, they get a 4th rounder.
This is almost essentially trading the draft rights to the player.
That's why it's so interesting, right? So it's what does the trade market look for a first round quarterback before the season even starts? That's the unprecedented part.
I think that we compare this to car sales. What is the depreciation on the asset
7
when
weeks.
you lose them to the competition that takes place?
It's all right, you 12 GMs that don't have a quarterback still. I got a deal for you on this guy that we don't want, but he'd probably look good in your uniform.
you guys are hilarious.
No, I know. It's a funny concept.
Think about this, okay? Let's say you get the first pick and you take a quarterback, and you get the 4th pick and you take a quarterback.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's where we're looking.
Okay,
right
and
now.
you talk about depreciating assets, right?
Yeah,
So you
right.
go to another team. You have this camp battle, and you go to another team that needs a quarterback, and you say, "Hey, we took 2 quarterbacks in the top 5.
Yeah.
What are you going to give us for the one we don't want?"
Exactly. That's
Yes.
yes.
That's the question.
What
What is it?
What is the market value for our second best first
And what
round
makes you
quarterback?
think the other teams are going to go, so the Bears don't want this guy?
Yeah.
What makes you think that a player who is projected in the top 5 is going to fall so far because the Bears evaluation team said no thanks?
Yeah. It's interesting.
If you don't think they're going to still lean mostly into their pre-draft reports and evaluations? They're just going to say, "Oh, it turns out that this guy we had 4th on our big board is undraftable and unplayable because the Bears thought so for 6 weeks of camp."
I'm not saying that, but you're not going to get return on your investment.
That's
gonna
the
get,
market
You're
value.
going to get negative ROI.
That's not true. You have a franchise
Absolutely
quarterback, or more likely to have a franchise. The whole point of this is not I'm maximizing my return on that pick. It's maximizing the potential guarantee that I have a franchise quarterback. That's the only reason you do it. You don't do it because I'm saying pick number 3. The best choice I have here is to take a second quarterback and then try to trade him after I evaluate he's not as good as the other one. I'm saying you take both quarterbacks so that you can look at them and best, most effectively say, I'm pretty sure we got our guy. Yeah. And the value of having, how many picks would you have traded for Patrick Mahomes? Would you have given up a 3rd and a 5th if you could have taken first whatever dudes came before him in the draft and then taken him as well?
Mitch Trubisky.
If you had Trubisky and Mahomes and you just said, you know what, I like them both. I'm not sure which one I like more. I'm going to take them at 3 and 5, and we're going to see what happens in camp here. You think Trubisky would have gone into that camp and over 7 weeks they would have said, yeah, he's better than Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, you never know.
Right.
To the college program point, who actually cares? Just draft them both. Just keep them.
I mean, to your point, you never know about anything. Like, there's nothing that's a guaranteed lock in any of this, Kurt. What you're trying to do is maximize your odds to guarantee yourself one position gets locked down, and it just happens to be X times more valuable than every other position on the field.
That's interesting.
I'm arguing for this pretty impassionately.
I love it as a concept.
If my GM did that, there would be pitchforks and fires. That's all I'm saying.
If my GM did it, I would say, do we have a quarterback? Please say we do.
Right. Right. Different situation. Like, you're working. Okay. You are coming off the Trey Lance debacle.
Yeah.
And rolling out a championship contending team with Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
So we've only had the debacle luxury, never the championship level team because of mediocre quarterback.
We haven't had a franchise quarterback since 1998.
Steve Young, last guy you're going to throw into that camp.
And we've been in seven NFC championship games, and
So to your point, you can do it
2
without
Super
a
Bowls?
franchise level quarterback. It would be sure as hell be nice if we would get one in our lifetime.
I don't think either one of you have talked me off this position.
No, I think like if the Bears did that, I would absolutely be ecstatic.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
That would make me about as happy as I could be coming out of draft night.
If they have Caleb Williams and Drake May in camp battling it out next year, that is awesome.
Like, that's must-watch TV. Yeah.
All right, audience.
Yeah, no pitchfork for me. Yeah. I might buy 2 shirts. I don't know.
Let us know. Did I just hit the most magical idea ever, or am I a complete moron? More to come on that later.
More to come on that.
All right, last thing. I just want to go ahead and introduce our next topic. We're about to talk to the one and only, the Degen Boost on Twitter. You can find him on Twitter at Degen Boost, TheEdegenBoosts.
Doing that again.
I always spell it out so that the people can go put it in their search and find it. Before we talk to him, I just want to give a little brief summation here on how we utilize promotional betting for our purposes so that as you walk into this conversation, you have a little bit of a better idea behind our mindset. First of all, between me, RJ, and Kurt, it is the primary way that we are profitable. All the chasing steam, all the originating, all the other noise is mostly for fun. We offset that entertainment expense by promo betting. What do we mean by that? Sportsbooks offer either lines at reduced rates or tokens you can redeem for improved lines, or even risk-free bets that offer you money back in the form of a free bet in the amount that you lost. These offers are made every day and vary in the type and scope of promotion based on the sportsbook you're in. In general, we recommend any new sports bettor to start here. If you do your homework on how to best establish your gambling account, you can lock in sizable increases immediately that then can be used as your bankroll moving forward. And we're going to cover that in the show with Jeff of the Degen Boost account in more detail. My favorite aspect of all of this is that there are a number of accounts out there that do all the legwork of identifying the wagers that you can apply these boosts and promotions to get an expected value well beyond what the sportsbook would price these wagers for otherwise. So in this scenario, if you find an account you trust on your favorite social media site, sign up for the alerts and play along with them, you'll find noticeable gains in your bankroll as a result. So last but not least, with all that said, we've invited on one of our favorite Twitter accounts just for this very thing to talk more about promotional betting, why it's so valuable, how to get involved in this space, and a few tips to make you a better bettor in general. So stay tuned. Don't hesitate to reach out with any questions or comments you might have in this realm of the industry. And we look forward to talking to you guys again next week. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy the interview. We welcome into the show Twitter account the Degen Boost, aka Jeff. Jeff, welcome into the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm pretty hyped about this.
Absolutely. So to give the audience a little bit of a background, RJ, Kurt, and I were talking recently about how we actually make money gambling. The primary reason is not tailing other people. It is not trying to originate our own plays. It's taking advantage of the promotional offers that are offered by the books. So with that said, we wanted to bring on Jeff to talk a little bit more about the basics behind promotions, what you might want to do if you're just getting started, and then we're going to nerd out with him a little bit on some of the topics we've really wondered over the years. So starting off, can you share any advice for someone who is just starting? Like, what are the basics they want to cover in order to start off their promotional betting profitable?
I mean, the main thing I would say is, like, first of all, you're starting at a great time because we're in like the absolute golden age of sports betting where there's a ton of different sports books and they're all fighting for each other's businesses or fighting for your business. So you have just ridiculously good promotions. I think some people either think the promotions are all good or they're all bad because they think, oh, why would they offer something that's good for the bettor? But they actually can offer you really good stuff because they're trying to entice you to play on their book more and kind of get you hooked. And so if you're smart and you open up accounts on all the books, you can actually make a good amount of money off of these. And you really don't have to, I shouldn't even say if you're smart, you don't have to be that smart to do it. But there's legitimately a lot of really good money-making opportunities for people who don't even know much about sports or betting or anything. Promotions are really good. So the first thing I would say is you got to have accounts on multiple books.
Yeah.
Now, if you play it right, when you sign up for the books, you can essentially guarantee you will come out with additional money after starting those accounts, right? Just based off, you can play one account's promos off of another account's promos to lock in profit.
Like
is that what you would recommend there?
Like the sign up bonus specifically?
Yeah, because like the very first thing they're going to do, the best promo offer they're probably ever going to get is that very first promo, correct?
Yeah, it's a good point. So the one caveat that I would say rather than immediately opening up accounts on every single sports book is you could wait until you can max out that initial, whether it be a deposit bonus or that no sweat free bet that they give you depending on the book, right? So DraftKings, what is it like? You bet $5, you get $200 in free bets. Is their classic promotion. And then FanDuel sometimes has stuff like that $5,000 risk-free. And of course, you could hedge that against a different book to make just totally risk-free money off of it. So you can do that for sure, but that requires a decent bankroll. To some people, $5,000 is nothing. To other people, $5,000 would be their entire bankroll. And so that's not necessarily feasible right away. So it really just depends on your bankroll. Everyone's in a different financial situation. And maybe you're in a good financial situation, but it's hard to convince your wife to let you throw $5,000 into DraftKings. You know, she won't necessarily understand that it's actually could be a good investment if you know what you're doing. And I recognize, by the way, that for lots of people, it's not a good investment. But if you're just hitting these promos, you can actually make good money. So yeah, with all of the initial deposit bonuses, whether it be a risk-free massive bet that you can take advantage of at the start, or it's like you bet or you deposit $1,000, you get $1,000 in free play. That's just so plus EV. You can boost your bankroll so quick taking advantage of those. So you want to have accounts at every single sports book, but you might want to wait until like maybe you get a paycheck where you're like, okay, I can max out that deposit bonus before I actually make an account on that sports book.
So what's more along the lines of maybe like a minimum that if you're going to dive into this and you're going to really play these off of the sports books, I would recommend you might consider having at least this much to get the most out of it.
I mean, to get the most out of it, like as far as promotion wise, you would need, I'm not sure what all the promotions are right now. Like for a while, Caesars and FanDuel had $5,000 risk free, you know, so you would want at least 10 grand to take advantage of those. But I don't know that they're all offering those right now. I think they're smaller. I think it's more like $1,000 one. So you would only need like 5K to take advantage of all those kind of deposit bonuses initially, but that's not what I had. I started off like I just had a DraftKings because I was like a rookie bettor and didn't totally understand it. And my initial deposit was $100, and then I started to kind of understand the promotions and plus EV stuff, and then I opened up a FanDuel account, and it was a very steady. I'm gonna deposit $100 into here and $200 into here. It's not like I had 30 grand that I could throw into these sports books. I didn't have close to that
Right.
when I started off. So
That's perfect.
everyone's in a different spot.
And realistically, I think that's probably more in line with what our target market's investment would look to be. So to be able to hear that, maybe you got $500, right? And if you start off with $500 spread across those books and you're playing them, you're still going to be able to take advantage of those promos just at a lower level.
Yeah, for sure. And for a lot of times, if you're just playing the promotions outside of those initial deposit bonuses, having 20 grand or whatever is actually going to be almost too much. You're not going to be able to get that much down because a lot of these boosts and promos have limits of 10, 25, maybe $50. So you don't need to have a massive bankroll.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's going to be overkill if you're just kind of hitting the promotions.
So Jeff, once we've established that first step in depositing into accounts, what do you think if I'm just a beginning bettor, what would be the next step for me to take?
Follow the Degen Boost on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, that's a good plug. I like it.
Turn on alerts.
But honestly, it's totally free, and there's other good accounts too. But that can just kind of help highlight, hey, these are the good promotions that you can take advantage of every day if you're totally new to it. Outside of that, for general betting advice, I would just say, hey, understand that these sports books are relatively sharp when they set lines, and so to actually beat the sports books, you have to trust that the sports books are sort of sharp, and so you're probably not smarter than the market, especially starting off. So you might think, oh, the Giants are a lock here, the Lions are a lock here. How are they priced like this? But you're probably not taking something into account. And people are so short-term results oriented that if they think the Giants are a lock here and they bet it and they win, then they're like, I'm a sharp NFL bettor. I can actually beat this. And that's how you kind of get into that trap. So just play plus EV promotions and you can actually make a good amount of money. Follow a couple accounts on Twitter, like the bigger ones are like Promo Guy and stuff. And he does a totally fine job at reviewing the big DraftKings and FanDuel boosts. And then you have smaller accounts like me that try to dive into a bunch of the different books. And just play the plus EV ones. Yeah, it's not really that hard. And plus EV, by the way, real quick, means plus expected value, means over the long term, it's a good bet. So if it's plus 5% expected value and you bet $100 over it on it, it would mean like you would net $5 each time you do that. Would be your expected value.
Yeah, you almost got to start with people like with the coin toss scenario, like the minus 110 on the coin toss, right? Like that's like the tried and true, like how to explain the juice from the sports book situation.
Yeah, maybe we should dive into that. Like the sports books, on a 50-50 bet, they're giving you minus 110 odds. So to beat that, you would need to win you would basically need to win 53% of the time. And of course, most people can't do that. They're going to win about 50% of the time. And so that's how the sports books make their money. That's called the VIG or the sportsbook juice, the sportsbook fee, whatever you want to call it. The vast majority of people can't overcome that. But with these sportsbook promos, when you get a 25% boost, that's enough to overcome the VIG right there.
Yeah.
And so you're going to win in the long run playing this.
Do you exclusively promo bet?
No, not even close. But starting out, it was like 90% promo bets. And that helped grow my bankroll massively. Especially because my bankroll was pretty small to start off with. So when you're hitting a bunch of good plus EV $10 to $25 bets, can grow pretty rapidly ROI wise.
When you're not placing a promo bet, are you still utilizing some sort of EV system or are you pretty much like I chase steam of others or I originate plays? Do you stick to EV in everything you do?
Yeah, 100%. Because I don't have any, I don't do any origination. I don't know sports very well at all. So I don't trust my ability to handicap anything. Yeah. So it'll be 100% if I see a sports book's, a certain book has odds that are out of whack. That's what I bet. So like the whole market, let's say, has this 50-50 and I can get the bet at plus 105. That's an excellent bet. It's going to lose half the time, but if I'm getting plus 105 instead of plus 100 or minus 110, you're going to win in the long run doing that. That could be kind of tough to find. That's when, odds screeners and stuff like that, or maybe being in Discords can come into account. But yeah, I don't do any origination. I know that I wouldn't have any edge there. And I don't do my own handicapping.
What tools do you use when it comes to determining or just seeking out line shopping? What do you use?
So, there's a bunch of different ones to use. I don't know that I should I have used Dark Horse Odds, Odds Jam, Crazy Ninja Odds, all in the past. Crazy Ninja Odds is totally free still. It's kind of still in beta, so people could check that one out as a starter. And the Crazy Ninja Mike D Vigor, that's by the same guy, obviously, that I always link on my threads. That's what I use to analyze the promos and regular bets to see if they're good. But there's a ton. I mean, there's unabated, there's Spank Odds, there's Bet Stamp. There's a ton of different odds screeners out there. Some free, some like half free, but you got to pay for the premium stuff. I would say you don't necessarily need to go out and buy an expensive odds screener to start off with. There's like Odds Checker, or Action Network for like the basic lines and stuff like that too.
So I'm a Bet Stamp user, but I'm in the market. I'm not 100% sold on that app. It frustrates me. So that's kind of why I ask as well.
I haven't actually used BetStamp. I'm just familiar with it, but I haven't actually used it. I just know they're an odds screener.
It's a very convenient tool with a nice interface. It doesn't have enough markets, and it doesn't update in real enough time. That's my honest feedback for them. So
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of them kind of run. So like Odds Jam is the biggest one as far as the most people I know have used Odds Jam. And there's definitely some value there, but it's relatively expensive and it can be a little bit glitchy. They have a ton of stuff, but it's relatively expensive and, it's kind of tough.
Were you pointing at me?
We did an episode where he trialed it for a week, and he dropped the price tag on us in the episode, and I was like, I would be starting with no chance of profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it like
So you need to have a
300
really
month?
big-
It's $250
$250
a month.
Yeah, and I think they have different plans. So if you already have a huge bankroll, you could make the case that it's worth it. But if you're working with like a $2,000 bankroll and you're immediately losing over 10% of it on the odds screen every month, I mean, it's going to be really tough to be profitable. So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, so I would start with the free one. Like that's why I like Crazy Ninja Odds. I would at least check out. It's a little bit tough to get started at first. Like I said, it's totally free. It's got like player props for most of the major books and stuff. Especially, I don't have DFS apps in my state, but I think a lot of people use that to find lines on there.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's cool. I knew he has the devigging tool, but I didn't realize that he had an odds screener too.
Yeah, I think he eventually plans on kind of competing with the odds jam and unabated, but right now it's totally free. It's been free for a year.
Yeah,
and I think it
very
probably
cool.
will be for a while because he's still looking to add a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then the other one that's actually pretty good, but is a cheaper option is Dark Horse. Dark Horse is like $40 a month, and they have a good amount of lines. It's not perfect, but compared to odds jam or unabated, it's just way cheaper. So that would be one where if you're looking to make a smaller investment,
Yeah.
you could make the case for that.
We kind of established that the first move the consumer should make is take advantage of the sign up offers when they sign up for the books. Once we hit that point, then it's really still a day-to-day grind with the promos. Every single day we are given a large number of promos across a wide variety of books. So my question to you is, when we look across the different types of promotions that are offered, we've got your fixed rate boosts, you've got your profit boosts, you've got your insurance offers. I think those are probably the biggest three, or the no sweats, whatever you want to call those. Do you have a preference, or do you look at some of those and say, these are the most valuable ones to target on an ongoing basis?
Depending on the terms, the no sweats / insurance bets are generally the best, because if it's like 100% insured, where if I place this bet, it loses, I get 100% of the bet back in the form of a free bet, which of course is not as good as cash, but those are massively plus EV when you play them a little bit aggressively. So I actually made a video on this. It's like, if you play them kind of dumb, like if you bet them on a 50-50 bet and it loses, and you bet the free bet on a 50-50 bet, those still have an 18% edge. So it's still like plus 18% expected value, which is really good. But if you play them more aggressively, meaning you're betting these at like plus 500 odds, and then you're also betting the free bet at like plus 500 odds or greater, ideally you even want to go higher, assuming that you're getting decently close to fair odds. It's like plus 60% expected value, which is just nuts. So the full insurance ones are really good. The one kind of downside of the insurance ones is sometimes Bet Rivers or Barstool, they'll do stuff like, it's like an insurance promo where it's like, bet on a guy to hit a home run, and if he hits an RBI, then you get your free bet back. Well, that's not as good, obviously, but if it's you lose and you get your free bet back, those are generally the best ones. And then the preset boosts are just totally mixed, because I mean, you've seen on my Twitter, like sometimes Barstool will give you 10 preset boosts and every single one of them is negative expected value, and they're all bad. And DraftKings and FanDuel usually give good ones, but occasionally they have really bad ones too. So it just kind of depends. And then the fixed boost, sometimes they'll just give you a 50% boost on a random NFL bet. That's obviously great. You have to like try to make that not a good bet.
Jeff, you bring up a good point on that last one. So I've noticed I do a lot of the first touchdown, insurance boost. But one of the things I have noticed is that Caesars will offer these fixed rate boosts, but their lines will be dramatically lower than every other book, making the boost almost essentially worthless or even negative to the odds from, let's say, a FanDuel on the same bet. How would you, I guess you could say, let the audience know how to look out for some of those traps that these sports books set?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's where like having multiple sports books or an odds screener comes in, where you can look at these. And just today, Caesars had their Tuesday Dingers promotion where they give you a 25% boost on home run hitters, which could theoretically be good, but the odds that they're offering initially on that home run bet are so bad where even after you boost it by 25%, you're getting a worse price than FanDuel and DraftKings, or you're getting barely better. And of course, those home run markets already have a lot of VIG. It's usually like a 7 to 9% house edge on those. So they're just terrible. So as far as how to look out for it, you just kind of got to look manually and see, okay, I'm getting, plus 250 on Caesars for Aaron Judge to hit a home run. I could boost it by 25%, but then I look on DraftKings and I could already get it for plus 350. And it's probably a bad bet at plus 350.
You look at these lines every single day. And just as Kurt mentioned with Caesars, and we see it with FanDuel, this isn't in our heads, right? That on the days where they run these promotions, their lines for these props tank on one-way markets. Or is that in our head?
Caesars, yeah, I don't think it's in your head. Caesars absolutely does that for their Dinger Tuesday ones. But on a random Tuesday, they won't. Like a month ago, they had a ton of good lines. And then the next week, they're all terrible. It's really bizarre. I don't know. FanDuel, there's been some Dinger Tuesdays where I'm like, wow, these lines are really hard to find good ones. But occasionally, they're good ones. So I won't say blanket they always do it, but Caesars, they intentionally tank the odds. It's really deceptive because if you're just a random sports bettor, you might only bet on Caesars, or you only bet on Caesars and DraftKings. You don't really understand that you're getting a horrible deal on that 25% boost. You're getting totally screwed.
I always kind of assumed that these boosts were basically money they allocate from marketing departments to fund the activities.
Yeah.
But when they then manipulate the lines in association with that, it makes me think that it's not just the marketing department involved there, that there are other factors, which is really skeezy in my head.
A little gross. And to your point earlier about like the theoretical hold or whatever the house edge on these bets, like I always harp on the one-way markets and how they're already kind of skeezy. But I think we only have one sports book that has the no for home runs specifically. I think Barstool is the only place you can bet the no in Illinois.
And anywhere you see those lines, they are insanely different than when you look at them on the one-way.
You guys can't bet the no on DraftKings or MGM? Illinois?
Well, I can't bet anything on MGM, but I don't know that I've seen the no for home runs on DraftKings. It may be there.
DK
is
does.
it there?
Yep.
Yeah,
DK does.
DK does.
But yeah, those one ways are brutal because if you're the Crazy Ninja Mike DVigor tool that I've talked about, and there's other tools too. When I say DVig, you take the sportsbook juice or sportsbook fee out of the market, and then you can see what they think the true odds of the event are, or at least get really close to it. With one-way odds, you can't cleanly do that because you can't see the no. Right. So it is really frustrating when sportsbooks offer one-way markets. FanDuel does it, DraftKings, so they all do it. Caesar does it for all their home run odds. FanDuel's pretty bad for MLB because their doubles, singles, triples, home runs are all one way. It's frustrating.
RJ, you brought up a good point that you can't really even bet on MGM, period.
Yeah.
And we have found on different books, we get limited on promos, sometimes for seemingly random reasons. And we always try to respect the rules. Like we don't ever bet two sides of a line or any of the obvious things.
Yeah.
And it almost feels on some of the books, DK in particular, the algo's almost going bonkers. And I'm getting different limits at different days, and it never seems to be consistent. What is your take on keeping yourself viable in these promo markets and not getting yourself limited?
Well, first, limits are really annoying, and specifically for me, they're a total pain. What I would say at first is don't worry about limits too much when you're starting off. Just make sure that you're actually profitable and you're actually betting plus EV, because most sports bettors are losing bettors. I mean, just to be real about it. So the limits, in a way, if they don't know what they're doing, can actually help them. Once you are actually profitable, the sports books are going to limit you, not just on promos, but on regular bets. The easiest way to not get limited is to be a losing bettor, but obviously you don't want to do that because you don't want to lose money. So it would be to generally make your account look more square than it actually is. And there's different ways to do that. Like if you're betting parlays, generally that is a square thing to do, but you can bet plus EV parlays. And I don't just mean from a boost, right? If you have two individual legs of a bet that are plus EV and you parlay them, assuming it's not a same game parlay, well, it's still going to be a plus EV bet. The variance is just going to go up, right? Because you're going to hit less off, especially if it's a 50-50 bet. You know, if you make that into a 2-leg parlay, it's only going to hit about 25% of the time.
Oh, interesting.
So your variance will go up, but you can still bet plus EV, and it does look square if you're betting parlays. And also if you're sticking to more major markets, they're going to like that more. If you're like killing them on Brazilian women's volleyball because you're finding mistake lines, that's not going to look like your normal American bettor, you know.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, sometimes you just get limited. Like, my BetMGM account is totally effed. I basically can't bet on there anymore. I had a good couple 6-7 months, but I'm fine with it, right? I'd rather be profitable and get limited than lose a bunch of money and have them up my limits.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking about trying to see what happens when I try to place a parlay on MGM.
Well,
That's a
I was
good
just
idea.
going to say, Kurt, you haven't had as many problems getting limited on promos and stuff as RJ and I.
No,
And you're our parlay guy.
Yeah, I don't. I place a lot of. I place a lot of baseball parlays. Just two-way, nothing over two.
Like player props.
Yeah, but it's mostly just to get the juice down from the main prop that I'm betting. Just for example, take an alt line to match with the pitchers under strikeouts, just to wipe out significant juice. But I place a lot of those, and I find myself like right now, I'm my limits on DraftKings are $100 for every promo. MGM is throwing me constant free bets and insurance bets for $50 and $25, and I just don't have any issues with being limited, and I'm not a losing sports bettor.
Yeah, he doesn't lose.
I'm plus, 200, almost 300 units the past 2 years. So I'm kind of wondering if placing those parlays has a significant impact on my bet limits. I mean, that could be it. I never thought of that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I believe it does. And, all the sports books operate differently. So I can't say for sure that this is, but, and sometimes like if you hit one mistake line, that one mistake line will get you limited. Like I remember last year, there was that game they played in Mexico in early MLB. There was that game they
I
played
remember
in Mexico.
that. Padres Giants.
I
played. You posted that.
The Bentley one?
Wasn't that the over under for the Padres Giants game? And you found that, I think.
I think so. So I might have done it on a few books, but I remember specifically on Bentley, I posted that they had the over under like 4 runs lower than the main market. So it was an insanely good plus EV bet. I don't even remember if it hit, but I know that I posted it, and then like 3 or 4 people messaged me saying they got limited on Bentley and basically can't bet more than $5 on there anymore just because they followed that one bet.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just you hit one mistake line and they destroy your account, which ultimately is probably a bad mistake from Bentley because, these guys might not be winning bettors. And just because they hit one good line doesn't mean that they're super sharp, Probably a mistake by them, even from, I think it's wrong to do anyway, but even from a business standpoint, probably a mistake. But basically what I'm saying is like sometimes you can just hit one bet that the sportsbook doesn't like and you might get limited. But really, the vast majority of people don't need to worry about that. Like, you just need to worry about being profitable. And if you get limited on one book, then no big deal. That's why you have a bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute about free bets. Do you have a specific strategy that you act against with all of your free bets?
Yeah, bet at high odds that are preferably plus EV. If you find like let's say you're betting a 50-50 bet at minus 110 odds and it's an insanely good bet, you have like a 7% edge or something, it's not as good as just like a random plus 400 odds bet for a free bet. Just with the way that the math works out. So like
it doesn't even have to be necessarily like
it doesn't
substantially
have to be
better than the consensus or anything like that.
Yeah. So let's take the vig out of it. If you bet a plus 100 odds bet, say you expect it to win 50% of the time, then the expected value on a $100 free bet would be $50, right? Because half the time it's going to win $100, but half the time it's going to lose. You're not going to win anything. So that equals out to $50. If you just raise that up to a plus 200 odds bet, well, the implied odds of that are winning 33% of the time. And of course, you're going to win 200 on that when it actually wins. So the expected value is $66. So it goes up substantially. And if you raise that up to plus 500 odds, the expected value on that is $83 or 83%. And then if you keep going up, so like a plus 900 odds bet, assuming you're getting perfectly fair value, the implied probability on that is 10%. It's going to win 10% of the time, but your expected value is $90 or 90%. And that doesn't have to be a super good bet. But if you place these at higher odds, assuming you're getting somewhere near fair value, it's just a way more efficient use of them than betting them close to like 50-50 odds, or even worse, like you definitely don't want to use them on like minus 300 odds or something.
I've done that before.
So Jeff,
Yeah, I would recommend avoiding that.
So real quick, I have implemented this strategy for the past couple of years now with my free bets, and they absolutely grill me for it, and I know you're going to grill me for it too. But I have found it very, very profitable to the fact that I'm clearing well over 100% of my free bets by doing this. Essentially, when I get a free bet, I look at the market on futures and I place it on the best lines that I can get for future championship winners. And I've been doing it for NBA, NFL, and MLB. And every single season, what happens is I can total up my total of free bets, and the money that I've won exceeds the money that I've gotten in free bets. So explain to me how that is a bad idea.
Because you were one San Diego State shot away from hitting zero of the teams and getting 0% on hundreds of dollars of free bets.
So
he just
but I
hasn't
did.
missed yet, Jeff. He just hasn't missed.
Well, what I would say is, it's on its face, it's not necessarily a bad strategy, because presumably if you're betting on futures on this team to win a championship or this team to win a conference, you're betting at high odds. So that's kind of like what I say, right? You're betting at plus 900, plus 12,000, whatever odds, which is what I would recommend. I would say you definitely want to line shop it though, because you want to make sure that you are getting at least close to fair value or better than fair value, because maybe you find a plus 900 odds bet that I said, but if the VIG is super high in that market and like really the fair odds should be like more like plus 1,400, then you're not getting a great long-term free bet conversion. But one of the things when you're betting on free bets at that high of odds, like there is going to be a ton of variance, so it can be frustrating, because I'll tell people, hey, you should really bet those on plus 500, plus 6, 7, 8, 900 odds. Like, I mean, you could easily lose 10 in a row, and it's frustrating. Yeah. But you hit one and you're good. Now, I'm not telling people to bet like that always. I'm saying specifically for free bets, the math works out where you can bet at high odds. So for futures, normally if you're betting on like a team to win a conference, team to win it all, that is on high odds. One of the downsides for futures, of course, is, you know, just kind of like the time value of money. Like if you bet futures, if you're going to bet on an NBA winner right now, well, then you can't touch that money for the next 9 months.
Aren't you also betting again into a one-way market with additional lines of juice?
Yeah, theoretical hold is kind of hard to calculate on those, right? Like you have to take every team into account.
Exactly what he said.
Yeah.
You have to take every team into account. The CNMD Vigor that I've kind of plugged, it's totally free, by the way. You can take that into account and see what the true odds should be, but it's just a little bit more work for sure. And yeah, the hold in futures markets is high. So you have to be careful. You want to line shop it around. But there could be big discrepancies where like randomly most of the market has this team to win the championship or the conference at plus 500 odds, and you can find them on MGM or Caesars at 750 for some reason, because they're just like slow to update or they think that team has a worse chance. So you could find value in futures. But in general, like if you're only betting on one sports book, you're going to get destroyed on futures. The VIG is super high. So yeah.
Yeah. The reason I stopped doing it was when like MGM was giving out a free bet every day for no reason. And I was like, wait a minute, I bet they don't want me to put all of these onto the same market for like the NFL championship. And I felt weird about doing it. But it didn't matter because then they threw me out anyway.
All I can think
Did
is...
they actually ban your account?
No. But I was limited to $1.30 the other day on the Jaguars at 300 to 1 to win the Super Bowl or whatever. So yeah, it's all but limited. Yeah.
I feel like this is a feather in your cap, Kurt, with him talking about taking longer odds bets with your free bets and you harping on this futures conversation for us.
Yeah.
It's starting to sound like a little more viable of a strategy.
I'm not crazy.
No, maybe.
So one of the other topics that we've been debating, Jeff, is when does this all go away? And I'm reaching the conclusion that it's probably not going to go away forever or entirely. But when we go to Vegas, we don't get to walk into a casino and every time we walk in get handed discount coupons to go gamble, for example. Now, I understand this is a retail market where you're sitting on your couch and the competition for users is more intense. Do you see this level of offers continuing long term, or do you think that there's going to continue to be a drop off here?
I don't know about in the short term be a drop off, but eventually they'll have to be. I mean, some of these books will go out of business for sure. I think there'll be a consolidation. You already kind of see that like PointsBet going under, and Fanatics came in and bought them. I'm sure some of the sports books will go away, and then when there's less competition, the sports books will not have to offer as many promos. But I think we're still a little ways away from that. I think we still got a good couple of years. I mean, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I guess I just don't know. Yeah.
So like FanDuel, we just on the same day, both he and I went from $50 to $25 on their profit boosts.
Sad day.
It was a very sad day.
I'm still at 50.
He's still at 50.
He's still at 50.
So there we go. I think we might have just actually, just so you know, Jeff, we just cracked a code on the algorithm. Good work.
Many parlays tomorrow I'll be placing. Warm the sucker back up.
Now.
And I will say, be careful. Like, I don't necessarily want to recommend that, and I know you guys know what you're doing, but like the average better just goes spamming parlays, because the sports books like parlays, because if they have an edge on each and every bet, that edge is just being compounded. Yeah. And so they're making more money off parlays. I only mean if your individual leg has an edge, then parlays can be great.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. I don't want to mislead anyone.
That's 2 wins for you on this call, Kurt.
Amazing.
Unreal.
Real quick, before you ask another question, I just want to, he just asked about when is all this going away. FanDuel, the boosts, I've noticed they've taken it used to be daily boost, right? And they've kind of replaced it with these $10 max bet, 30% make an SGP boost. What do you make of that from FanDuel transitioning out of that stable offer that they gave us with the plus 300 plus 200 boost every day to essentially this new kind of token, I guess you could say, that they're offering?
Yeah, I don't love it, and I think just from like a kind of fun standpoint, I think it was kind of fun when there'd be a plus EV boost that we were all on, betting the exact same thing while rooting for LeBron to hit 25 and Steph to hit 4 threes, or whatever the boost was. So just from a fun standpoint, I don't love it. And then I don't love that a lot of the promotions now are you have to make a same game parlay. Those are generally bad for bettors. They can be plus EV with the boost, but they're still worse for bettors. I would so much rather have a 30% you have to make a 3-leg parlay than a 30% you have to make a 3-leg same game parlay. Just way harder to find favorable odds there.
But
I don't love it.
Do you see FanDuel essentially just shutting off that FanDuel boost that we used to get that, had 2 lines for everybody to just play the same boost?
It seems like they might be going in that direction. I kind of hope that they don't do that. I think some of it is because there's a lot of like conspiracies that those FanDuel boosts were rigged. And every once in a while, there would be a new Twitter account that would pop up that would be like, I'm going to fade all the FanDuel boosts and I guarantee I'm going to profit. And of course, they would lose a ton of money because they weren't rigged. A lot of them would be very plus EV. And, we joke about the FanDuel wizard, like crazy stuff would happen to a player when he's in a boost. But it's just that we would notice it more. The FanDuel boosts were really profitable. If you tracked them over the long term, they were good. But I think the casual bettor didn't necessarily think that they were. So maybe they didn't feel like they were getting great returns on it, and only like people who knew what they were doing were playing them and making money off of them.
That's an interesting
I wish that they
angle.
would bring them back, though.
I never considered the fact that maybe they were keyed into the fact that
they were winning.
Well, that people thought they were rigged, and so they weren't betting them. I don't know.
I'll say this: there is a lot to process for any new bettor, especially if they're looking to jump into the pond of, for example, the gambling Twitter community with a whole lot of people who know exactly what's going on and a massive audience of people who may or may not have any idea what's going on. So that's why you end up seeing a lot of those interactions between the accounts, and you see a lot of explaining over and over again, which I appreciate. So every time you open up your Twitter, Jeff, you have new followers, right? So for each of those new followers that you're always getting, you kind of have to have that in the back of your mind where, okay, part of this is education for them.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, the mega thread, I probably need to at least once a week put out a better explanation, because some people coming across my Twitter right now, they won't know what it even is or what these figures mean, because I put the EV, the fair value, and the win percentage of these boosts. It's totally meaningless numbers and figures to a random person that stumbles across my account.
Let me give you a quick plug right here, because that is the single favorite thing I have from the Degen Boost account on Twitter. So every day Jeff goes in and he does the math on boosts across, how many sportsbook is it? 6, 7?
It changes because sometimes I'll throw some sportsbooks out, but usually it's around 7 or 8.
Around 7 or 8 sportsbooks, and he creates one massive thread and says, on this sportsbook, here's all the promo offers. These are the good ones. These are the bad ones. And he does it for every single sportsbook. It is immensely valuable. I use it as a tool in my gambling every single day for that purpose. So that's just a quick shout out for you, Jeff. We really appreciate the work that you are putting into that. And hopefully you find value from it too. Are you having a good experience doing it?
Yeah, for the most part. I love doing it, and it's good for me because I would want to review them anyway. The one thing that I'll say, and this isn't really on them, it's kind of on me. Usually it takes me about like 3.5-4 hours to do it. and then I'll post it. And then I get like 3 or 4 replies, and it'll be, you forgot. And I didn't actually forget. They just weren't out yet. But it'll be like, you forgot this Fanatics boost, and you forgot this boost. And people wanted me to review them. And it's kind of like you just got done with a ton of work, and then your boss throws something else
Work
at
on
you.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people are really cool and appreciative. So I like doing it. And yeah, I mean, if you track, like I have the Google Sheet tracking the boosts and promos that we played over the year. And it's been massively profitable ROI-wise. So it's cool because it's all free and people are doing great on it.
How long have you done the mega thread specifically?
I honestly don't know. So this started out, I was doing YouTube videos and I would kind of cover the plays. And when did I switch to the mega thread? 2.5 months ago?
Okay.
I don't know. But I was doing a daily kind of boosts and post stuff all year since January 1st is when I started tracking it. But the actual thread, when I switched from video format to just the Twitter thread, I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago. I'm actually not sure.
I was gonna say, it feels like it's been recent. And like, honestly, like for me, it's like reading the Wall Street Journal. And then you get to Barstool. It's like, oh, here's the funny pages.
Actually, Bet Rivers, right? Bet Rivers always has the negative 25%. And,
like, what's going on here?
You posted a negative 70%, I think.
That was hilarious.
Unbelievable.
Bet Rivers is wild how much they try to screw their customers. Well, what's the worst thing is that the last 2 weeks, I totally stopped doing Bet Rivers because so most of their boosts were really bad. But it seemed like every couple of days there'd be one that was plus EV. But then I would post it, and then 10 minutes later they would take it down.
They change it. Yeah.
Yeah, or they would change the odds. So it's like, okay, I'm like spending all this time to find one good boost, and then maybe 10 of my followers can get in on it, and then they nerf it. I mean, it just shows how they're like, hey, if there's anything that's remotely good for the better, we are removing it because it was a mistake line or odds shifted or whatever. Yeah, Bet Rivers is really bad. Barstool will occasionally have good ones, but it seems like they're doing the same thing now where they'll, like I had didn't end up hitting, but last night there was a boost for the Bengals game that was plus EV, and like 10 minutes later they nerfed it. So, as in made the odds worse, so it's no longer good.
So that brings me to another, a very relevant, I think, related question on this topic. When you do all this, and when you do all the math on it, and when you look at like the boosts that are out, there are always several accounts at least that are rating these boosts. Do you compare like what you're doing? Do you do any double checks, or do you have a pulse for, okay, I know these other accounts are going to do it? Do you do any checks against that, or do others do that with you, or how does that work?
Others might do it with me. I basically don't anymore. I just kind of like, not that I'm infallible and never make a mistake, but I just basically trust that I know what I'm doing. And it takes so long for me to put out the thread that I just kind of do it. Occasionally I will, like, if there's something really weird or tricky, I might consult a friend. Like if I'm not a data golf subscriber right now, if it's a weird golf boost where it's like this guy to score, under 72 and none of the books have the line, then I might need some sort of service to kind of help me come up with a fair value for that. Because generally all of my coming up with fair values is using the books themselves and just doing that. But sometimes they have like a weird one where none of the books have the odds for it. And that's where you kind of have to handicap it. But I don't do my own handicapping. So it'd be like find someone who actually has a really good model to give us a good idea. Or I just ignore it if it's a really weird one. But yeah, I don't really look at the other Twitter accounts too much. Not that there aren't other good ones. There definitely are. But no, not really.
So in general, we've kind of had this discussion back and forth regarding when you see boosts that you'll get boom, boom, 2 people come out with 2 different percentages. And I know there's a myriad of reasons based on like the numbers you're inputting and what data sets you guys are working with to create these. To what degree confidence do you think when people are rating these boosts, we in general should be like, because we don't see any of the math, right, behind it. So what degree of confidence are you that like, yeah, I mean, if they're doing the math on it, it's a pretty straightforward thing. You're probably fine versus you need to be careful with some of these accounts.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough. That was one of the things that I liked about the videos because I used to do a video and I would show, hey, this is how I came up with the math for this. And then I would kind of teach people how to do it. But with the mega thread, yeah, there's just not really time to show all of the math. As far as why there's discrepancies so much, the main thing would be on correlated parlays and disagreements between different books on how correlated something is. So it's like Devontae Adams to score a touchdown and the Raiders to win and the over to hit. Those things are all obviously correlated, but are they 20% correlated? Are they 15% correlated? Depending on the book's same game parlay features that you use to try to figure that out, you're going to come up with different answers. So normally when there's bigger discrepancies, it's normally from a correlated parlay. If it's a straightforward boost, like the Yankees minus 1.5 for plus 150, there really shouldn't be much discrepancies. unless, I did the boost 3 hours ago and there's news that the pitcher that was supposed to be starting sits and the odds move like crazy. As far as, what accounts to follow, I would just, maybe you could like ask for their process or whatever to make sure that they actually know what they're doing. But it's kind of tough, yeah, right? Because people don't generally show their work. There's not a teacher telling us to show all your math, right? So.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm glad we're talking about this because I mentioned this earlier to him. There was the FanDuel boost last night, and I didn't catch a lot of my Twitter feed before the game, but I did see that a couple had it plus EV, I think at 10%, and then I saw a couple who were like, I'm not even playing this. This is way negative.
And what was it?
It was Hertz touchdown, Evans touchdown, and Swift, either of those three to score the first touchdown for plus 300. I didn't see where you had that at, but
yeah, that one. Sorry, I was gonna say that one I didn't actually review. My state didn't have it, and I saw it later.
Okay, so that would be something obviously correlated, right? Is that how you would explain the the degrees of, hey, this is 10%, and then someone else is like, I'm not even playing this. This is way negative.
Well, that one was one of three players to score a touchdown. Any one of them?
Yeah. No, it was for the first touchdown.
Any one of three.
Any one of three. Yeah.
So that one you wouldn't necessarily have to take correlation into account, right? Because you just need one of them to do it. So generally correlation is like, if this event happens, then this is more likely.
Okay.
So like
if Cousins throws for 300 yards,
right,
then Justin Jefferson is more likely to accumulate more yards.
Yeah, exactly. So there wouldn't necessarily be correlation. I will say with first touchdown scores, the lines can differ a lot, and there's no under generally. You can't bet on a guy not to score first touchdown. So people are kind of guessing what the fair odds are, right? So like, let's say DeAndre Swift was plus 1,200. I don't know what he was, but plus 1,200 to score the first touchdown. And then you might estimate that there's like 7% big in that market and try to come up with a fair value for that. But it's more difficult. Plus, it's just a generally inefficient market to begin with.
So you're saying So you're saying there's some guesswork, and that could explain the difference
for a first touchdown score market for sure. Yeah, it's like, what books are you comping it to? There's not necessarily a source of truth on it. When people talk about source of truth for sports betting, it would be like looking at Pinnacle and Circa for an NFL side to see what are their odds on it, because they take freaking huge bets on it. They don't limit bettors. It has to be a really sharp line. It's not the case for first touchdown score. So there could be some discrepancies. Even if their math is right, their assumptions that they put into it, they might differ a little bit. So those ones are a little bit tricky.
So to be clear, it's not subjectivity over the play, it's subjectivity over the lines with which you choose to trust in these scenarios.
The interpretation of the fair value, I think. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Which to people who aren't like, that's probably gibberish too. Basically, I'd say is that the first touchdown score markets are a little bit more difficult to find the fair value for.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that people would have some discrepancies there.
Audience, we know we're getting nerdy right now. Bear with us because this is a great conversation for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mom.
All right, just a couple questions here to wrap up. So we talked a lot about signing up for new offers and then the day-to-day grind and how they can follow you to get access to these are the recommended plays on a day-to-day basis. Right now, if someone's working with a limited bankroll, they don't have time to place 20 plus EV bets a day or whatever it may be. Which promos out right now would you say are most valuable and are primary focuses to target?
As far as like recurring promos, the no sweat promos, definitely on like DraftKings, where normally their no sweat promos, at least recently, have been you can kind of bet whatever you want. It's like anything on NFL, no sweat bet. Those full insurance promotions are very good, without a doubt. So I would definitely take advantage of those. And then they'll also have, 50% boost for an NFL game, or maybe they'll have 50% boost for a specific college game. Those you can randomly pick either side of the spread, and you're going to have an edge, of like 40% because you're fighting the vig, but you're going to have a good bet. And you don't really need to think that hard about it. You can spend 5 minutes doing all of the DraftKings promos like that.
And for the most part, you can also pick that. One of the things I will say real quick, just to chime in here, those boosts they've been offering on prime time games, I really enjoy because it makes me have an excuse to get to bet on those games. So for the casual fan who's out there, you'll get offered boosts on the games you actually want to watch. So rather than be the square who's betting into these very established markets where there's a lot of eyeballs on them, you're instead betting into those markets with guaranteed plus EV by taking advantage of these boosts.
Yeah, and I would say just don't overthink it. Don't go and try to make a 10 leg same game parlay on, like this weekend they had I think DraftKings specifically had like a 50% boost on the Ohio State Notre Dame game. If you randomly pick a total spread, you have a huge edge. You don't need to think twice about it. You know, if you have a favorite team, pick them, and that's fine. But when you get a boost that big and it's just on a straight bet where maybe the house edge is somewhere between 4 and 6%, if the vig is a little bit higher, those are just really good bets to take advantage of. Any straight profit boost that's like 20% or better, and you can see the juice in the market somewhere around 5%, those are great bets. Long-term crush. The stepped-up parlays, if it's a stepped-up same-game parlay, those are tougher to beat because the same-game parlays have a lot of extra juice in them. Yeah. Sportsbooks charge higher vig. That's why they promote those really hard.
Do you play the stepped-up parlays?
For NBA, I was finding value throughout the year. I stopped playing the MLB ones after they changed some of the odds around, and I was struggling to find value. It's not that you can't, but it wasn't worth the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth the time. I wasn't finding value personally.
One last question. We're going to let you go, Jeff, here. This is the question we've all been waiting for here. People who complain about not getting free bets back when they lose a promo. What's your take?
So we're talking like bad beat refunds,
Like
right?
bad beat.
Injured players. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, obviously they are not entitled to the refund. If a sportsbook chooses to offer it, totally fine. It's coming out of the marketing budget. They're kind of just like if DraftKings does it and FanDuel does it, they think it makes them look good. But obviously, like thinking that you're entitled to is really stupid. I get it. It sucks. Like I had Nick Chubb bets a week ago when he got knocked out and looking like he was probably going to hit those overs. I get it. It sucks, but like you could have bet the under. And definitely shouldn't feel entitled to it.
It makes me feel uncomfortable, Jeff. Like even getting the refund, I'm like, no, I lost that bet. What are you going to do? What are you going to make other rules now so that when other things happen, you can use this as a precedent? I don't trust them, Jeff. We're going to let Jeff go. Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. You can find him at the Degen Boost. That's TheeDegenBoosts. And yes, I did that off of memory.
Yeah, good for you.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate having you on, and we hope to talk again soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.